It's working now.
Okay, yeah, I think I can see it now. Let me make sure I mute this. Okay. Okay, perfect. So we are live now, guys. Whoever has joined us from the audience, could you please just confirm that you can hear us okay? Hear and see us okay? Ila, can you just say yes there if you can see and hear us okay? Ila, can you just say? Okay, all right. So we have a yes there. All right. So guys, we are live now. Okay. All right. Sorry. Hi, Jayashri. Sorry, it took a while to set all of this up. Um, so I'm just gonna go back. Actually, probably I'll have both the screens open. Um, all right. So, first of all, I would like to welcome everyone who is joining today. For some of you who do not know me, my name is Vaishali Paliwal. I write poems sometimes, I make art sometimes, I study films. I basically follow the artistic eye. Um, Talking about this session specifically, last couple of years have been very challenging for most of us, and in that process I have realized that I have let a lot of like noise and chaos of the world inward, and so that has kind of disrupted or disturbed my energy a little bit. So this year, when I was starting this year, I kind of wanted to make sure that I find that stillness again. And usually in the past I have found it by reading poems of these great mystics such as Rumi, Hafiz, Rabindranath Tagore, Lal Ded, I thought about it that as I read this work again, I wanted to study it with poets and artists I have known. And so I reached out to some of the poets that you will meet today. I have met some of them through a poetry class, poetry workshops that I've done, some of them through Instagram. All the these three poets that you will see today, they to me they are really poets of the heart, they're poets of the soul, very soft poets, who have somehow managed to work by giving up their ego. In many sense, you will see in their work that they are working out of just their bare soul, let letting the noise and the chaos of the world kind of aside. So it's been great to connect with these artists and poets, and I'm so grateful that they are here with me today, and that we will get to read work of some of the great poets through these wonderful poets that we have with us today. So again, thank you to all the three of you for joining us today. And with that, I will invite our first poet here, poet and artist, and she's so much more. I will give her introduction in a bit. I'll give her formal introduction in a bit, but I'll also share a little bit, kind of how I connect with her on an artistic basis. So her name is Alicia Henry. I met Alicia through a poetry workshop. A beautiful, beautiful poet, beautiful human being. As you hear from her directly, you will see the kind of lovely energy that she brings with her. As soon as she's in the room, you will see that light kind of coming in. So I've really appreciated her, not just her poetry, but how she lives on a day-to-day basis, just with this stillness and balance in her life. So a lot to learn from this artist. A little bit more about Alicia. Alicia is a mother, writer, postpartum care advocate, and founder of Naked Sage Tea. A serial optimist, she is aptly part of the team that achieved the International Day of Happiness, which became a resolution of the United Nations. Thereafter, Alicia advocated internationally for gender equality and childhood nutrition. Her copywriting has graced billboards from New York City to Miami, and her poetry is composed on a 1960s typewriter. A fan of the Oxford comma, Alicia currently resides in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where she's writing her first book of poetry in dedication to mothers. So that's lovely to hear. I'm looking forward to read Alicia's poems and the book very soon. But with that, I will give the mic over to Alicia. Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you so much, Vaishali, for the beautiful, beautiful introduction. I think we could all use some spiritual poems right now, so I'm so grateful to be a part of this. I will not hesitate, and I will begin with two poems by the mystic poet Hafiz. A crystal rim. The earth lifts its glass to the sun, and light is poured. A bird comes and sits on a crystal rim, and from my forest cave, I hear singing. So I run to the edge of existence and join my soul in love. I lift my heart to God, and grace is poured. An emerald bird rises from inside me, and now sits upon the beloved's glass. I have left that dark cave forever. My body has blended with his. I lay my wing as a bridge to you so that you can join us singing.
Lovely.
When I want to kiss God. When no one is looking, I swallow deserts and clouds and chew on mountains, knowing they are sweet bones. When no one is looking and I want to kiss God, I just lift my own hand to my mouth.
Awesome. Thank you.
Before I read my last poem, I'm going to recite an original poem of mine that has no title. Lay on my back to bask, gibbering, jabbering feet pass. Solitude to the stars, this music breaks apart the tawny path. Billowing clouds like puffs of smoke, feeble are we to the den of truth above. Blowing over our heads, we look at our toes, piddle paddle for a hoot. 1,000,000 gilded guides with blindfolds. A sip of this potion and I am reconvened, with bottomless lavish lagoons to boot, and fear driven inward to the masses. Pluck on the strings of our youth, pluck on them and they listen to the badger on the soapbox, and they listen and repeat and retreat to the open waters. Come on your back with me and seek simple sweetness in what hovers overhead like poked pinholes burning. Brush by me for a hoot.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you.
My last poem by a 17th century haikuist, Matsuo Basho. A field of cotton, as if the moon had flowered.
Lovely. Thank you, Alicia. That was wonderful. Your poem was just incredible. We'll talk a little bit about the two pieces you selected. Um, so the first one was, if you can just remind me what the first. It was by Hafiz, right?
Yes, Hafiz, A Crystal Rim.
Yes, yes. So was there any, I would just like to ask you, was there any specific thing in the poem, that you like, that, the reason why you selected it? What touched your heart as you selected this piece?
The light that is woven through it. The light is poured, the earth lifts its glass to the sun, and light is poured.
Yeah.
And just sort of the essence of this crystal rim, this light when the sun rises from the horizon and then falls back down and everything glows and is aureoled. I think that light is something to carry.
Absolutely, especially in these times, in these challenging times. I also really like the piece about the mouth, right? Where if you could just read that once again for us, please.
Absolutely, if I can find it. When I want to kiss God, when no one is looking, I swallow deserts and clouds and chew on mountains knowing they are sweet bones. When no one is looking and I want to kiss God, I just lift my own hand to my mouth.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think a great reminder of our oneness and that we are all divine, all of
yes,
us in
yeah,
our essence.
yeah.
So important right now, more than ever, to remember.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Alicia. And I think anyone from the other poets, if any comments or any questions, just feel free to jump in.
Yeah, Alicia, I really loved the last line of your poem, Brush by Me for a Hoot. There was so, yeah, I feel like the sounds and the delight and the play in that poem were so cheeky and like soulful at the same time. It was really marvelous and physical.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also just reminding all of us to remember the simple ways, right? The simplicity of life. There is so much of poetry in that. It was really a beautiful poem, and the way you recited it, Alicia, was lovely as well. Um,
And I'm glad to see that you're still writing too.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, got to pick yourself back up.
yep,
Mhm.
exactly. All right, guys. So I think with that, and we'll probably circle back with Alicia. We kind of like we're gonna keep back and forth here. But with that, Alicia, do you have anything to share? Anything else you would like to share with the audience? Okay, all right. Well, thank you for sharing your lovely poems, and let's see if there is some time left. I would love to hear some more of your pieces. So, um, okay, and with that, I will invite here now our next poet, and his name is James Andrew. So again, James Andrew, and I'm calling him Andy. Okay, um, so I met Andy through the one of the poetry workshops, the same classes that Alicia, me, and Andy were taking. Um, Again, a lovely poet, and what's really unique about Andy is that I used to notice this, that when we were in the class, our class had was very beautifully diverse. There were people from all over the globe, and everyone had very different themes, topics, different accents. But I used to notice Andy as being such a great listener. Sometimes I would read poems which are maybe like more had more uh, cultural context, related to my culture, or topics which might not necessarily be very relatable to someone who grew up in America. But Andy could pick up those things. So I always felt like, wow, he's such a great observer and listener. He's very meditative in his work, and you will see that when he shares some of his work today. A little bit more about Andy. So, he was born in the hills of Appalachia and was accustomed to wandering the forest and field as a child. In his youth, he gave to too much daydreaming, which ultimately landed him on the west coast of the US as a young man. A diplomat by nature and a writer entrepreneur by choice, James has used his creativity mostly for good. He currently enjoys helping musical artists establish themselves, writing for a personal blog, photography, building small businesses, and establishing resources and infrastructure for progressive candidates running for local offices nationwide. So, as you can see, he is staying very busy, very creative human being, and he's doing a lot for the society as well. So, again, we are very thankful that we have someone like Andy joining us today. And with that, I'll hand over the mic to Andy.
Thank you so much, Vaishali. Vaishali, I appreciate you saying that. It's very kind. I never thought of myself as a great listener, but I'm going to tell my mother that you said that. She'll be happy. Uh, so today I have two pieces from two I consider mystical poets, and then one that I wrote myself. And I have kind of a theme, and the theme is the struggle within, and it kind of reflects a lot of what we're going through today. So with that, the first one is by our lovely, let me get to the thing here, sorry about that. It's by Khalil Gibran, or excuse me, Dark Night of the Soul by, oh, sorry, I'm having problems here, technical difficulties. Give me just a moment.
No problem.
Okay. So it's Dark Night of the Soul. It's by Saint John of the Cross. He is a Spanish priest from the 17th century, and he is from a specific I'm sorry, here it is. He is from the group of Catholic priesthoods called the Mystic and Carmelite Friar of the Converso origin. He's a major figure of the Counter-Reformation in Spain, and he was mentored, more importantly, by Teresa of Avila. And a bit about her, because this is kind of like the cornerstone, is that she was described as a restless wanderer, disobedient, and a stubborn woman who, under the title of devotion, invented bad doctrines, moving outside the cloister against the rules of the Council of Trent. And she was teaching as a master against St. Paul's orders that women should not teach. In other words, she was a woman ahead of her time, and she paved the way. And she was also the mentor for my poet, St. John of Cross. So without further ado, this is called Dark Night of the Soul. On a dark night, kindled in love with yearnings, oh happy chance, I went forth without being observed, my house being now at rest. In darkness and secure, by the secret ladder, disguised, oh happy chance, in darkness and in concealment, my house being now at rest. In the happy night, in secret, when none saw me, nor I beheld aught, without light or guide, save that which burned in my heart. This light guided me, more surely than the light of noonday, to the place where he, well I know who, was awaiting me, a place where none appeared. O night that guided me, O night more lovely than the dawn, O night that joined beloved with lover, lover transformed in the beloved. Upon my flowery breast, kept holy for himself alone, there he stayed sleeping, and I caressed him, and the fanning of the cedars made a breeze. The breeze blew from the turret as it parted his locks. With his gentle hand, he wounded my neck and caused all my senses to be suspended. I remained lost in oblivion. My face I reclined on the beloved. All ceased, and I abandoned myself, leaving my cares forgotten among the lilies. Now that is supposed to be about the struggle with darkness and then unity with God. But I think there is something else going on there.
Okay, yeah, I read it as, the dark night of the soul, the kind of like spiritual depression, as they call it in many religions and spiritual paths. And I felt like, if you brought up the term dark night of the soul few years back, some people would know about it, some people would be going through it. But I feel like the way our 2020 and 2019 has been, I think everyone is going through dark night of the soul. There is a certain meaninglessness, there is a certain loss in direction. A lot of our past beliefs are being challenged. So I think all of us have been pushed into this kind of a situation, and it's yeah, this is very so relevant, right, to what most of us are going through right now. And yeah, just that line, eventually after going through this path, the lover is transformed in the beloved. they basically merge, right? There is this union between
Mhm.
the seeker and the seeked. I really love the closing line, leaving my cares forgotten among the lilies.
Mhm.
It's almost like they've merged and everything has kind of gotten dissolved and evaporated in the beauty of the nature. Uh, so I thought that was beautiful. Did you read it as anything otherwise?
I felt that it's supposed to be, I mean, he was a friar, a Catholic friar, and it sounds a little forbidden to me if this is about God. I think you can find God amongst many things, connecting with yourself or with another person or with an activity or the earth. Um, but also there's a line there. Um, with his gentle hand, he wounded my neck. And I imagine that someone neck breaking and caused all my senses to be suspended. So, you know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so there's death happening, and I remained lost into oblivion. My face, I reclined on the beloved, all ceased, and I abandoned myself. I left my body dead, leaving my cares forgotten among the lilies.
Mhm.
So that's what I was reading into it. I don't know what the lover is. I don't know if that's God or an actual lover.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Actually, that's so interesting. That's another way to look at it. Like, yeah, it could be an actual lover, right? We probably are romanticizing it to be something, more towards God, but it could be just any other lover. I also
Yeah.
feel like the death which the poet is talking about could be the death of the ego. Just leaving the ego behind, and then also with that the senses and perspectives and all the conditioning, giving all that up. That could also be it, but again,
Yeah.
that's just one of the many interpretations. So
I noticed a happy night, the night being happy, and then also when no one else can see, when no one else can see me. So perhaps with this certain lover, maybe this forbidden lover of some sort.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And climbing down the ladder when the house is asleep and going into the forest or somewhere. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and
I
then
think
in,
this is so interesting, because when I read the poem, I felt like it was definitely about God, and but it could actually be, yeah, it could just be a lover. And yeah, it's yeah, it's really nice to see it from that other side as well.
yeah. And then the second one is by Khalil Gibran, a bit about him. So the first author was Spanish, international, from the Old World. Khalil Gibran is a marriage of the Old World and the New. So he was born on January 6th, 1883, which is ironic, January 6th as the day. He was a Lebanese American writer, poet, and visual artist, also considered a philosopher, although he himself rejected the title. He's best known as the author of The Prophet, which I have right here, and it's an amazing book. It's a good read. Um, it was first published in the US in 1923 and has since become one of the best-selling books of all time, having been translated into 100 languages.
Wow.
He immigrated with his mother in 1895 to Boston. So here we go with Khalil Gibran. This is called Freedom. An orator said, "Speak to us of freedom." And he answered, "At the city gate and by your fireside, I've seen you prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant and praise him, though he slays them. I, in the grove of the temple and in the shadow of the citadel, I have seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff. And my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment. You shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care, nor your nights without a want and a grief, but rather when these things girdle your life, and yet you rise above them naked and unbound. And how shall you rise beyond your days and nights unless you break the chains which you at the dawn of your understanding have fastened around your noon hour? In truth, that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its links glitter in the sun and dazzles the eyes. And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? It is an unjust law you would abolish. That law, if it is an unjust law you would abolish, that law was written with your own hand upon your own forehead. You cannot erase it by burning your law books, nor by washing the foreheads of your judges, though you pour the sea upon them. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. For how can a tyrant rule the free and the proud, but for a tyranny in their own freedom and a shame in their own pride? And if it is a care you would cast off, that care has been chosen by you rather than imposed upon you. And if it is a fear you would dispel, the seat of that fear is in your heart and not in the hand of the feared. Verily, all things move within your being in constant half embrace, the desired and the dreaded, the repugnant and the cherished, the pursued and that which would escape. These things move within you as lights and shadows in pairs that cling. And when the shadow fades and is no more, the light that lingers becomes a shadow to another light. And thus your freedom, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom.
Yeah, I think I think almost like three. I saw it as like three different pieces. First of all, that when we start, um, we make freedom a goal and objective. And at that point, when we make freedom goal and objective, then we are chained to it. Then it's like any other desire. So I thought that was one part of it. And then I thought this was also very interesting, this line. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. I think this is such an important message for our society, especially today. We are always, kind of like in attack mode of, attacking others or tyrants. And of course, the tyrants and the dictators, they have to be questioned and dethroned. That has to be done. But while all of that happens, we should also look within and see that, we don't have those kind of, negative qualities, or if there is something related, then, we try to discard it. So it's also like looking within rather than just kind of going on that project of destroying external things which we are not comfortable with. So I thought that was interesting as well. And of course, the last paragraph, which is about working in this half embrace, always both the good and the bad, the desired and the dreaded, just working within that. And again, that's what it says, right? That when you, the last line, when your freedom, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. So as soon as we get attached to one thing, we become chained to the next thing.
Brilliant. That was an excellent takeaway. I'm happy.
A line I really loved from your reading was, you shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care, nor your nights without a want and a grief, but rather when these things girdle your life, and yet you rise above them, naked and unbound. I think I've been thinking a lot about how oftentimes to like completely separate from a distress feels like a healing, but like the ultimate healing would be to have those elements around and still be able to maintain oneself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is such like a tall order. It's such an enormous ask. Like, that's real work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think it's just recognizing the light and the darkness in ourselves and being at peace with it. because we all have those things. We all wrestle with those things. It's a struggle. It really is. And I mean, if you didn't know that it was a struggle, you do now, because after last year and now, like, my goodness. So can you can you be at peace with your own inner darkness and your light and love them both and honor them at least?
Yeah.
And the sense of like the true freedom being like facing and like an attentiveness to these things rather than an escape. Because I feel like freedom has this sense of escape or like being finally, you know, like free. Those two words can kind of be conflated, but he's seeming to propose that there's like this necessary moving through like the work of moving through these things and like attending to them before achieving that freedom.
Yeah. You'll have to check out Gibran's book. It's amazing. So good.
Yeah.
Prophet. Yeah. And then, do we have time for me to read just a quick something that I wrote?
Yes, please go for it.
Okay. I'll be quick. So this I wrote in 2019, and it's also an inward journey. It's called Raised by Matriarchs. Goes out to my lady friends. She woke up angry, ready to slay those in her way as she made her morning tea. And with the allegiance of higher forces, angels, friends, and God at her command, heads would roll like marbles if need be. He did not believe he had the strength of a mother, of a warrior queen defending her young, that it wasn't entirely in his nature. So she came forth with fury, with the force to destroy all enemies lurking in his path, to heal a heartbreak through anger, with fire, a creative force, rage that only a woman could know. That's what brewed inside him now, something he didn't understand. The glowing coals of charred remains that a man couldn't touch because his hands were unaccustomed to infernos. So she stepped up, all the matriarchs from his past, rising from deep inside of him, to take up the flaming sword and defend his innocence, to love through wrath, to bring pain on those who brought pain on her house. She rose up. All right.
Is there a bit of revenge in this story?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is there a bit of a revenge in this story? A little bit of revenge?
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely obviously talks about the power of matriarchy. Something which, you know, our culture never even talks about, you know, so many matriarchal societies and, you know, the strength and the resilience of those kind of setups. We never even get to hear about it. You know, to come to think about it, most of the work kind of origins from the patriarchal systems. So this is wonderful, uh, you know, kind of a change. I'm so glad you selected this topic.
Thanks.
Really, really powerful, really beautiful. Resonates deeply within me as a mother of a little toddler who's upstairs trying to get to bed right now, and that is, I am like that when I make tea in the morning.
I was going to ask that there's bit of an anger here, so yeah.
You know, it's yeah, motherhood is warriorhood, and truly constantly just even subtly, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The most dangerous animal in the animals in the animal kingdom are female animals with their young. If you mess with that baby.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I really loved it that, yes, of course, there is, you know, aggression and warriorhood and all of that. But look at I really love that line, defending his innocence, you know. So all of that, maybe aggression, or I don't know maybe there's a better word for it. That is to defend the innocence, you know, of someone who's, you know, maybe going through an injustice, or so to love through wrath. I thought that was beautiful.
When necessary, you know.
When
And I
necessary.
know a lot of women who, I won't speak for you, but a lot of women tell me, like, I see what you go through, and I've heard the stories. Like, I read, like, women say they feel, some woman said she felt like a volcano ready to spew lava and melt everything in its path, because there's just so much that you all deal with on a daily basis
Mm-hmm.
in this world. So
Mm-hmm.
we all need to get in touch with our inner feminine, men as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you, Andy. That was beautiful. All the three pieces were lovely. Thank you for sharing with
Very
us. Um, okay. All right. So with that, thank you, Andy. We will move on to our next poet here, poet and artist. Her name is Jessie Kraemer. So I met Jessie, and we were just talking about it. It was such a coincidence. I came across her work on Instagram uh, through something which is, I saw one of her comments on something else, and I felt like, wow, that's the exact thought which I had. And she had, spoken in those lines. And so I immediately connected with her, and I got to see her work. She does artwork. You should check out her page. It's really beautiful. And she's also a writer. Her art, what I loved about it was, there is minimalism and abstraction done in a way that it is very natural, very organic. Sometimes these days, abstract work, especially in the art world, comes across as very forced and, not very authentic. So it's always, great to come across such artists who are really finding ways to come up with very authentic expression. And it is so heart warming, and I immediately connected with her work. There is so much of simplicity yet depth in her work. And then I got on to reading her writing, her essays and non-fiction work, and it was just off another level. She's a beautiful writer, very talented writer. So a little bit more about Jessie. Jessie is a writer and illustrator, and an MFA candidate at the University of Iowa's non-fiction writing program, where she co-edits the essay review. Her most recent written work can be found at the Chicago Quarterly Review, Speculative Nonfiction, and Essay Daily. Her illustrations can be seen on Instagram. And I will post these Instagram handles in the Facebook page. So if you guys are interested, check out her work. And yeah, she has this very interesting collaboration also going on. So she does artwork, and I think it is another writer, if I'm not wrong. We will let her talk about it, but the other writer writes haiku, so it is a combination of art and haiku. It's very beautiful. And so with that, I'm gonna hand this over to Jessie. Welcome, Jessie.
Oh my gosh, that was so sweet. Thank you, Vaishali. Yeah. Yeah. So I in preparing for this got kind of interested in Rumi. And I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole, exploring different like translations of Rumi and like all of the like different thoughts on his work, but just a little bit about Rumi, 13th century Persian poet. In the US, he's often described as one of the best-selling poets, but his work has roots in the Quran and Sufism, and he's just a total genius and extremely prolific, and has endured for many a century. So I have two of Rumi's poems to read. The first is called Story Water, and it's a translation by Coleman Barks. And the last one is by a different translator, but I'll just start with this one, Story Water. Story Water. A story is like water that you heat for your bath. It takes messages between the fire and your skin. It lets them meet, and it cleans you. Very few can sit down in the middle of the fire itself, like a salamander or Abraham. We need intermediaries. A feeling of fullness comes, but usually it takes some bread to bring it. Beauty surrounds us, but usually we need to be walking in a garden to know it. The body itself is a screen to shield and partially reveal to light that's blazing inside your presence. Water, stories, the body, all the things we do are mediums that hide and show what's hidden. Study them and enjoy this being washed with a secret we sometimes know and then not. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed this is, usually when we read Rumi poems, it's mostly very accessible work. The topics are topics and the writing itself are very kind of like easy to understand, accessible. But this particular piece has lots, which is you really have to spend time with it. What he's trying to say, and I didn't get to kind of study it beforehand. But what do you think? Do you want to share like maybe your interpretation of the work?
Yeah, I think a lot about story and a lot about how story is how we process the world. So this idea of like story being like an intermediary for like knowledge or experience really related to me. And I just really liked, I guess a lot of the times I relate to poems just like through image or through like small notions. And I think what really got me was about it takes messages between the fire and your skin, like the heat for the bath. So story being something that's communicating like heat communicates to your skin through water, like it's a necessary translation. Also something interesting to think about concerning, I guess, the translation of Rumi's poetry, which is not uncomplicated and a bit fraught. And some people don't like the way Coleman Barks interacts with Rumi's poetry. So that was like an interesting journey for me to go on today as well.
Yeah, no, this is beautiful, and I think the way it ends as well. I don't know if I'm reading it, the way it was intended to be written. But just studying the story like a mystery. You might understand it or you might not, but just be washed in it, just dive in it, and you know, uh, just study it.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of story being something that can wash is kind of beautiful.
Mhm. It's a gorgeous piece, and I've never read it before. Uh, yeah, it's lovely. Thank you, Jessie.
I just love Rumi, if I can say. Like, he has these universal concepts and makes it so easy for anybody to understand. And it's timeless, really. I
Yeah,
mean, and it's just beautiful. To me, like, talks about we all need intermediaries. We all are linked to one another. We're all linked to some outside something beyond ourselves in order to survive. And it's just beautiful and so simply put, yet so eloquent.
yeah, and also just like talks about. I think the way I read it anyways, just the fluidity in our existence, and I think he expresses it so well here.
Yes.
The little stories we are, and how things cannot be pinned down, right? And I think like again, and maybe I'm looking too much into this, but again, this piece is so relevant for today because our society currently is so obsessed with identities and putting you in labels and boxes. So the work of mystics like this always reminds us that we are so much more than just that one label, and just the fluidity in all of this, just the water that we are.
Just one more, a sweet, seems so simple, but I feel like those words I'll carry with me. Him mentioning the beauty being around us all the time, and most people have to walk through a garden to see it, and that just is so powerful, and also I feel so poignant for right now.
Yeah, it's a great reminder. Yeah.
I also feel like all we can kind of do right now is walk in a garden alone. Like being outside and walking has been so much of my life for the past year in a way that it just never was. So yeah, that line really struck me as well.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, I was living in Iowa City for a year before the pandemic hit, and just to get out of my apartment, I would take walks around, and every time I'd leave my house, I'd see another house on my block that I'd never seen before. I'm like, this was all here, and I had just never seen it.
Right.
And just so many images of the sky, like.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like, what Andy shared earlier, the dark night of the soul, like so many things which we didn't observe before, or our earlier belief systems. We've noticed it in this last 1 year.
Mhm.
Uh,
Definitely.
Definitely. So I had a prose poem to read that I did, and I may do that next and then finish up with another tiny Rumi poem.
Mhm.
So this is a prose poem called Calculations Involved in Disappearing Over the Pacific. Only in upward flight, and never while gliding down, an albatross sleeps 10 seconds at a time. In bursts, in slips of daydream, against the open sky, encircling the world in 46 days, they sleep only 45 minutes in any 24-hour cycle. Like the planes that are not much bigger, little hoppers with little people inside, blue maybe like the sky and cloudy white in their jumpsuits, drinking chill coffee that has not been warm since the morning, since the drip in the kitchen. The 3.5 meters of their wingspan, feathering on the updraft, what's inside a pillow, means 34 hours of sleep in 10-second bursts to circle the globe. To tie it in a bow with big fingers, wings that are 3.5 meters wide means 46 days and Amelia Earhart lost somewhere. And if we were talking about what doesn't get done when something else is happening, what is lost when one is above the ocean and in the sky and skirting clouds like the finger in a bowl of meringue, and each of these clouds whipped tenderly by organic design into peaks and unique and not by a bakery, and a cloud cannot be bought or sold. What is lost is the doing of anything on the ground. What is lost is, with a 3.5 meter wingspan, the parallel bird, the mate who, for life, will again be by your nest, will be, in the 100 or so days a year when one is not flying, subject to some greater gravity, webbed feet grounded and not rippled by air, their delicate interskin. And maybe like the bird, like anything that is gone long enough to forget and reimagine just with pieces, like we do of our parents when we are with the crayons at the desk, like we do with Amelia, who is more now a cap and a scarf than an imperative, who is more now an imperative than a person, who is more a span of time in which we can rest easily and think aggressively without concluding, the open jar without the lid. Like the 24 hours in a day that we might be otherwise doing, it is easier to circle the world than to nest again on the rock on which you have been known to nest. Because when we meet again, it will be to take turns sitting on the egg. And when one of us sits on the egg, the other will fly to the feeding grounds. And the feeding grounds, in terms of time and distance, are 1,300 miles away. And it will take you 2 weeks of sleeping in 10-second bursts and angling upward to return again. And once you return, I will leave for the feeding grounds. And in this way, it will be possible to meet the sky in the emptiness of no confrontation, just with myself again, and to feel that this is the way I am built, the blue and the blue of the water, the space never begging to be moved through, the space curling out like a lime.
Wow. This gorgeous, such a gorgeous piece. Wow. I'm just blown away. What's albatross, by the way? Sorry.
Yeah, so I just, it's like an Animal Planet fascination, but the
Yeah.
wandering albatross is just like the biggest bird, but they stay in the sky for like days and days and days at a time, like for months at a time. And it's like one of those facts that I discover again every few years. And I'm like, what? There's a bird that stays in the sky for days at a time. But they do it by sleeping in these like tiny micro sleeps.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
just beautiful. And I mean, the entire piece is gorgeous, but the way you've ended it, I will leave for the feeding grounds, and in this way it will be possible to meet the sky in the emptiness of no confrontation, just with myself again, and to feel that this is the way I am built, the blue and the blue of the water, the space never begging to be moved through, the space curling out like a lime. Just beautiful. Jessie. Is
Thank
this
you.
a published piece?
Nope.
Not yet.
Nope.
But this is such a lovely story. You kind of saw the story from the about the birds, and then you built on it. Such a lovely poetic piece.
Thank you for the aerial view. I was really there in the
Mhm.
clouds. Beautiful. So beautiful.
I love the
Yeah.
comparison with Amelia Earhart too. Like, the albatross does what no man has. It's just so interesting, and you kept, I don't know, the metaphor or whatever all the way through from beginning to end, from the moment when you said it sleeps in 10-second bursts, until I also wrote down like that line that Vaishali just read about meet with the sky in the emptiness of no confrontation or whatever that was. Beautiful. Oh my God. Yeah, you should publish it.
Yeah, this is gorgeous.
Oh my
It's a
God,
good.
you're right. Amelia Earhart did what no other person had done, and the bird does. That makes so much sense. I never thought about it that way. You're so right.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Yeah. The last poem I had to read by Rumi is kind of cheeky, I guess, because it's called Quarantine. But I thought this would be a good note to end on. This is a translation by Farooq Dandi. There is no cure for the sickness of the heart. Quarantine all lovers, keep them apart. Affliction though it seems to be, love is God's gift, anchoring to beauty, the human soul adrift. Yeah. Quarantine all lovers.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jessie. Anything else you would like to share with our friends who have joined today?
Oh, just keep going. I hope everyone has a safe
That's a
and,
good.
and warm week today.
Yeah, that's a good mantra for 2021. Just keep going. Yep. Well, thank you so much, Jessie. Okay, so it's my turn now. Um, so let me just pull up the work here. So the poet I'm gonna first read the work whose work I'm gonna read first. So he's a 15th century Indian poet, mystic, and saint. His name is Kabir Das, and the entire kind of life of Kabir Das is very mysterious. There is not clear record of when Kabir was born, where he was born. There are conflicting stories of whether he was born, raised in a Muslim family or a Hindu family. So there's this whole tension about the religious, origins, which I'll get to in a bit. So there's this entire mystery about Kabir, about his life. We don't even know exactly what time period he lived in. But what is interesting is that despite being such a mysterious poet, he's also one of the most quoted poets in India. Uh, it's very interesting that when we were also growing up, our parents were constantly quoting Kabir's dohas, and dohas means couplets. um, so he did verbal poems, so his work actually flowed down through the, what is that called, word of the mouth, right? So it's just kind of flowing down verbally from one generation to another generation. um, so he's still very much with us, and his work is, so he questioned the religious structures and rituals, the meaningless traditions, a lot, to an extent that both Hindus and Muslims used to feel threatened by him. And it's very ironical that these communities would feel threatened by his work because they would feel that he's attacking the religion, which actually that's not what he was doing. He was just questioning some kind of meaningless things in the religion and the rigid framework. um and after after his death, both Hindus and Muslims wanted to claim him as his own. So it is very funny how the society plays. So he has written his most of his work really is about giving up ego and merging with the higher consciousness. That is what the work has really kind of floated around. I will read his this one poem, and then I will explain a little bit more about what his work is. When I read this poem, I will read it first in Hindi, the language that it was written in. By the way, he also wrote in Hindi, but he used different dialects. So he used Awadhi, Braj dialects. So I'm going to read the language in the original language first, and then I will read the English translation. Also, please note when I'm reading it in Hindi, I might mispronounce some things because this is not the dialect which we speak on a day-to-day basis. So I apologize beforehand for any Awadhi speakers around here. So this poem is by Kabir Das. मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में, ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना एकांत निवास में, ना मंदिर में ना मस्जिद में, ना काबे कैलाश में, मैं तो तेरे पास में बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में, ना मैं जप में ना मैं तप में, ना मैं बरत उपास में, ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, नहीं जोग संन्यास में, नहीं प्राण में नहीं पिंड में, ना ब्रह्मांड आकाश में, ना मैं प्रकृति प्रवर गुफा में, नहीं श्वासन की श्वास में, खोजी होए तुरंत में मिल जाऊं एक पल की तलाश में, कहत कबीर सुनो भई साधो, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में. And so the English translation goes like this: Where do you search me? I am with you, not in pilgrimage, not nor in icons, neither in solitudes, not in temples, nor in mosques, neither in Kaaba, nor in Kailash. I am with you, O man, I am with you, not in prayers, nor in meditation, neither in fasting, not in yogic exercises, neither in renunciation, neither in the vital force, nor in the body, not even in the ethereal space, neither in the womb of nature, not in the breath of the breath. Seek earnestly and discover, in but a moment of search. Says Kabir, listen with care, where your faith is, I am there. So as you can, kind of read right away, he's basically saying all this religion and structures. This is and when he's writing the poem, he's starting with where do you search me. Now that me could be God, but as I read this today, like my contemporary times, that me could not be God, it could just be me, could just be about me finding my soul. And so the way I read this poem is that you don't need to look into these external places or external gods and external systems to find yourself. All you need is a certain faith, which is for yourself, or just basic things like love and hope and optimism. uh, if you have that, you can then find yourself, you can find that openness, open heartedness, and can find that certain stillness, which personally I'm looking for. So this piece is very special for me. It transcends, the way I read this is that it's not even about him questioning religion or talking about Hindu Muslim unity. He's really talking about the beyond, the something that transcends the materialism and the attachments of this world. Really moves on to the to really the defining the abstract of the soul, I believe. Like he's using language here to define something which we cannot define, which is the abstract of the soul. So it was a very beautiful piece, and I think this is a great reminder, especially for my countrymen. In India, people are getting very attached to their religious identities, and so this is a very good reminder that that is not where you will find peace and salvation, uh, but in really going inward towards your soul, where you have an opportunity to meet your higher consciousness. So that's the first piece. If you have any questions or comments, I can take it. um, and if not,
I'm sorry, I do. I was talking with my mute button on.
no problem.
What does men mean in the original text?
MEIN.
Yes.
Yeah, that's uh
Me?
I yeah, that's yeah, I it is I.
Okay. I am going to veer off the road here, less about what the translation and more about the rhythm of the original text. I just found it very beautiful. I see Alicia shaking her head too. It was just really beautiful and sing-songy, and I
Yes.
think we lose some of the poetic nature of it within the English translation, unfortunately. Um, and so I really enjoyed it in the native language instead. Especially those last four lines really tied it together nicely at the end. Such a beautiful little sing-songy end that just rhymed perfectly. And I felt that in the English, I'm not jumping on anyone for translation, but I wish it would say, instead of saying where do you search me, within the pilgrimage I am not, or something like that. So it's more rhymey and sing-songy, because we lose
Right.
that. But
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
the original.
Go ahead, please. No, I was just gonna say, Andy, like that's why I was telling you why you are such a good observer and listener. You pick on things which typically people are not able to, especially when they are listening to a different or new culture. So you know how you said there is a rhythm and song. So that's how Kabir wrote his couplets. It was sort of like a verbal song, and then it was actually sung also. The poems were songs actually, and people would sing it, and that's how it kind of moved from one generation to another. Also, your observation on the last four lines, it's very interesting you say that, because actually the last two lines, kahet kabir suno bhai sadho main to hu vishwas mein, that kahet kabir suno bhai sadho actually appears in most of his pieces. That is his standard line where he says, he's addressing Kabir as a third person, and he's saying this is what Kabir is saying, listen with care. So it's very interesting that you picked on those last four lines. So as I said, you can tell your mom that you are a very good observer and listener. So thank you for that. um okay, so I think I'll move on to the second piece. um this is very straightforward piece by Rumi, certainly not something what Jessie picked earlier, which I thoroughly enjoyed. This one is a very accessible, easy to understand piece of Rumi, and what I love about it is that it's about oneness, which we certainly need a lot today. It seems like a very distant dream looking at what's happening in India and US. um, but we can dream and we can strive for that vision. So hopefully one day we will have this beautiful place to live in. So this is by Rumi. Glorious is the moment we sit in the palace, you and I, two forms, two faces, but a single soul, you and I. The bird cries shower us with immortality. The flowers will blaze the moment we enter the garden, you and I. As we burn as the full moon itself, you and I, all the stars of the heaven will run out to gaze at us. The fire winged birds of heaven will rage with envy, while I'm here in Konya and you in Khorasan. In that place, we laugh ecstatically, you and I. What a miracle, you and I, entwined in the same nest. in this world and the next, in an ecstasy without end. What a miracle, you and I, one love, one lover, one fire. So that was Rumi. Again, as I mentioned, this is about discarding segregation and just being one. And world would be such a better place if we are able to live with the vision of Rumi. So I think that's all what I have to share. I will just ask any of you now if we have time. So if you want to read any of your other poems, please take the stage.
I just wanted to reflect for a moment on that poem.
Yes.
The word miracle and just that, him saying you and I are a miracle, and I think essentially the oneness of all souls, right? Every being in that one miracle that is capital O. Again, what if we all saw one another as a miracle? Just really beautiful.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Alicia, do you have something beautiful to read to us?
Yes, let's ask Alicia. Yes.
I think that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, just read one of the pieces you read for us before. Maybe your own piece.
I have the prophet by my side right now as well.
Okay, let's go for it.
And my mother is right across from me right now on the couch. She's visiting. She babysat for me today, and my little sister too. And I was reading to my mother. She just learned about Khalil Gibran today. I was reading the excerpt on children in the prophet, and it's actually really profound, of course, because it's Khalil Gibran and it's the prophet. So I'll read that. Let me grab that.
Absolutely.
I know what she's going to read. It's so good.
Yes, I know she's such a good reader. Jessie, I'm gonna read your that poetry prose piece. I'm gonna swim in it later because it was just so phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, I am just ecstatic to be here.
When did you write it? Was it during the quarantine or?
I think it was. I think it was last year. I think I was just trying to write longer sentences.
Okay, all right. Nice.
All right. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. And that's the beautiful illustration. Khalil Gibran also did these beautiful illustrations.
I had no idea he used to do his own art also.
Exactly. He's just incredible.
So this is an excellent message for the parents today, right, Alicia? Some of the parents can be so, I don't know, what's the word? I don't know what the word is, but too much, they're not giving enough, kind of freedom to the child.
too controlling, or
yes,
we
exactly.
want to, you know, I think it's easy to want to indoctrinate with what we believe is
Exactly.
right, and then so on and so forth. And instead of just being holding more space,
Right, right.
speaking it's almost like, you know, listening more, speaking less. Children are very much our guides and
Yeah.
the future, and a beautiful reflection of the present and what can be. And I think it's so important to be okay with letting go of the past.
Right.
The only way forward is forward, and our children, you know, they are the arrows.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know how you said like it's such a challenge, right, to raise them without your own conditioning, because you know your own conditioned thoughts and kind of ways of living can so easily get taught to the child. So that's always a challenge, right? How do you, how, I mean, how do you do it? Like, you know, I'm sure you have certain beliefs and, you know, certain ideas. What is your, sorry, I'm kind of deviating from the, I know we were talking about poetry, but a little bit about motherhood. You know, how do you kind of raise your child with, you know, without making, basically making sure that some of the conditioned thoughts are not flowing down?
I have just, I mean, honestly, I've evolved so much just with him in my life. And when you witness someone so pure and just of pure light and radiance, again, you're like, oh, you're my teacher. I'm
Yeah.
very much, but you're so dependent on me at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
you need me to survive at this age and this stage in life.
Yeah.
And it's just this beautiful exchange.
Yeah.
And I mean, it brings me to my knees literally sometimes, metaphorically.
Yeah.
But I think it's just his presence, Oscar's presence, and he has such a strong presence. But again, I hold to his hand and we walk together. I don't want to put anything on him. It just feels intuitive for me.
Right.
And I'm sure as he gets older, and just with every day, I'm always learning, and I'm messing up, and then I'm
Sure.
just, it's just a constant learning.
Yeah, and as you said, there is so much purity there, right? So much purity in a child that we learned so much from that. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Alicia. Andy, let's go with one more poem, Andy.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Let me
you know,
find.
didn't you, one of your own poems, did you read, you read one of your own poems, did you?
I did read one, yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Do you want me to read something else,
Yeah,
or?
yeah, let's read one from, let's listen to you once more.
Okay, let me see if I can find something really quick that's appropriate, because that kind of
Oh,
goes
yes.
with the theme
Oh,
here.
you read Raised by Matriarchs. Yes, sorry. Yeah, I was just trying to remember which one. Yes, okay.
Right. Okay. I don't know if this is really appropriate.
Go for it.
No, I won't read that one. I'm sorry, Jessie. If you have something, please, please go.
I think maybe Vaishali should read one.
Okay, you know what? I'll read one of my. I just have it here. I actually wrote this poem when we were doing the poetry, this thing, the workshop, the class thing, and it was a spiritual poem. So I'll read this one. So it's called Soham. Soham translates to, I think this is again from Indian Hindu Vedas. This term Soham means I am that. Um, and I am that meaning I am Shiva, I am the higher consciousness. I think that's how it translates to my dad is online. Maybe he can help me translate it better. But that is Soham. And so this is how it starts. I myself am the swan. Star of water bearer sits on my pillow of coral dreams, where the mystic fish sisters swim, holding my magic in their fins. Moon's bull tonight is on a sturdy ground of love. He will walk into the gardens of the twin birds, who know very well how to grow sunflowers in scorched or cold soil. The blue hermit arrives in my swan eyes, visions again and again. When lioness guards his meditation of the cosmic sea that he is, sun and moon, Shiva and Shakti, swan and sunflowers merge. So basically the piece is about, it's about merging. That's all what it is, merging with, your the higher power, higher consciousness. uh yeah, that's kind of a summary that I am that it, I'm already that. I don't have to do anything special or extra to be that. But Alicia was referring to earlier, that kind of divine power which already is existing within us, but we go around looking for it in external places. So that's what this is, Soham. Yeah.
That was absolutely unbelievable. Thank you so much for that. It
No,
was
thank you.
so necessary.
Thank you.
Very beautiful.
Thank you very much.
The cosmic sea is
Yeah,
just
there were
stunning.
the twin birds and the fish in the cold soil and visions and just the line again and again.
Yes, I think this is also like, probably one of the, probably I used in my meditation, I used some of these visuals, and I think that kind of flowed into the poetry. Uh, yeah. Okay. Um, all right. So, do we want to read something, or we are happy at this point?
Think I'm good. I didn't prepare another one. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you already read all the pieces. We have some time, so I thought I will ask. But yeah, if you guys are good, then I think we can wrap this up. So again, I'll just share my closing remarks, and then all the three of you can share. So first of all, again, I want to thank all the three of you joining this session. Your energy, as I said, your energy already is at such a great place that you bring, your lovely work and light to any gathering. So thank you for that. So very beautiful pieces, and I think for the people who joined today as well, such lovely pieces, right? You can, the folks who joined online, you can take out some time and just read this work. This will be very helpful for us because this year is going to be challenging, hopefully less challenging than last year, but we should stay optimistic but also realistic. So yeah, these are some great mystics, great examples. You can read the work and kind of see what these mystics are trying to tell us. They are teaching us about life in such a simple and profound way. So yeah, that's all what I'll say. Thank you for everyone who joined online today and participating. I couldn't read all the comments. I will read it after we end this the session here. So but thank you so much for joining, all the friends and family who joined. Thank you so much. And Andy, Alicia, Jessie, please, anything you want to share before we end this?
Okay. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Alicia. So good to see you. And Jessie, great to meet you. And Vaishali, thank you for organizing this and everybody reading such beautiful, exposing me to new poetry that I wasn't aware of, and your own beautiful writings, which I am blessed to hear. And Khalil Gibran that you read, Alicia, that was the piece that led me to him, that had me to fall in love with Khalil Gibran, just by the way.
So cool. So cool.
Awesome.
I'll say it was really an honor. Thank you so much, Vaishali, for hosting this. And yeah, just I want to just immerse into all of these poets, the ones that I've known and keep close to me, and the ones that I've just learned about. And I do think reading poems like this and spiritual poems and mystic poets is really centering. It feels really good. So, and it's inspirational. So I will leave you with that. And yeah, thank you for everyone who tuned in, and you are each a miracle.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you as well, Vaishali, for putting this together and for bringing your energy to all of us and to everyone who's watching, because you really do. It seems bring people together with your light and your, I don't know, belief that we are all miracles. And I think what I'm really going to take away is from the poem you read, "Where do you search me? I am with you." And just that sense of maybe we do have what we need, and just honoring that. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. We will see you all soon. Take care, please, and have a great weekend. Love you guys. Thank you. Bye bye.